Hi there guys, welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host, Simon Conboy. Just here today, continuing on with my free agency reviews, with the first wave of free agency being over. On the home stretch now with the AFC West, and this episode will be covering the Kansas City Chiefs, who actually ended up winning the division last year. This is a team that always seems to fly under the radar. Of course, got a great fan base. They've been, ever since Andy Reid got there, they've been pretty good. I don't know if it's just because they've got Alex Smith, who's, Alex Smith, but they've been great defensively. His style of West Coast offense isn't necessarily the most fun to watch, but I think this year, when Tyreek Hill really burst on the scene, they become a lot more dynamic. I mean, the combination of the Andy Reid offense of screens and short passes combined with Alex Smith, I guess doesn't necessarily make for great watching for everyone. I'm perfectly fine watching. I like watching it from an X and O standpoint. Defensively, I love watching this team. It's one of my favourite defensive outfits in the league. Defensively, they were superb last year. Gave up yardage, but anyone that watched them, man, they were tough to score touchdowns on. Got very good play at every level defensively. The offense really improved as the season went on. Tyreek Hill made them far more dynamic. Travis Kelce continued to have a good season. The offensive line is stout. The running backs, shame Jamal Charles got hurt once again, but the backups filled in admirably in Charcandrick West and Spencer Ware. Macklin's still a good player. This is one of the, again, better rosters all round. There's a reason that that they're somewhat competitive each year under Andy Reid at the moment. They got a very talented player at just about every level on offense and defense. I mean, whether it's all right, Dontari Poe had a bit of a down year, but he has been a talent for them. The linebacking crew with Houston, Harley this year. D Ford really came on for them. Derek Johnson getting injured hurt the team, but he's been a great player for a long time. Eric Berry, Marcus Peters on offense. No one outstanding on the line, but it's a well-coached, solid group, and they don't have to necessarily pass protect a huge amount of time. Macklin's a really good player. Kelsey's one, once Gronk got hurt, was probably the best receiving tight end in football. Smith's fine. He's fine. A really real positive season. They'll be disappointed. The game against the Steelers was there to be had. Just some mistakes and a lack of production on offense. I don't think they played that game aggressively enough. Isn't it? Something that you can often throw at Andy Reid, especially when it comes to the approach he takes in some playoff games. All in all, a positive season. Some of the players, really developed well. I think Marcus Peters, after a great rookie season, took another step this year. He improved, far more consistent all-round player. One of the top corners in the league at this point. They saw they don't necessarily need Jamal Charles to be effective. Tyreek Hill added another element to the offense. In theory, he should only get better. So, very good season. Not a huge amount of needs for this team going into free agency, as you may expect. They haven't necessarily been particularly active. It's actually true of most of the AFC West when I was making my notes. It's surprising how little action's actually gone on with this division. But then I did say it's probably the best division in football at the moment, so that may be why. Needs inside linebacker. Derek Johnson suffered a major injury. Don't know if he'll be the same, even if he is. You've got to look for a replacement. He's 35 now. He's not going to be playing forever. Defensive end with Poe currently still re-signed. I think you can just put D-line as a whole. They got some guys there. No one outstanding. I think they could do with a top-end player there. Don't see Poe necessarily coming back. This team doesn't have enormous amounts of cap room, and if they do, I don't think they're going to be investing it on defense with some of the players they've got there and the contracts they're on. And also wide receiver. Hill is not necessarily going to be a high number 2. I just feel like this offense needs a large-bodied sort of receiver. Really help them in the red zone. At the minute, it feels like Kelce or bust when they're in the red zone in the passing game. Someone who gives Smith a bit more of an outlet in terms of when they're covered, allow him to go downfield a bit more. that would be fantastic for them. But again, none of these needs feel massively important. It's a really good overall roster. I can't say enough about the job that Dorsey and Reid have done there in Kansas City. In terms of additions to the team, Benny Logan's been added. Actually, I forgot about that one. The Dontari Poe, he's not coming back. On a 1 year, $8 million deal. Really good move. This is a really, really good nose tackle. Was better than Dontari Poe was last season. As I say, this team has to be a little bit creative with its cap room at this moment in time. Of course, they re-signed Eric Berry to a monster contract. He thoroughly deserves it. What a great player and a great story. I'd have been very disappointed to see him go, unless it was to go to Tampa. That would have been great. But I expected him to stay in Kansas City, and even when all those stories were coming out about him, not being happy, not being willing to sign a tag, always felt to me like something was going to get done. You don't let those kind of players go. Had an MVP caliber season last season on the defensive side of the ball. Personally, I would have gave him defensive MVP. I mean, he single-handedly won that game against the Falcons. That was crazy. It was like but 5 years, 60 mil, highest paid safety in the league. He deserves it. Good job there. I feel he had to be kept. They've bought in CJ Spiller. I expect he'll fill Jamal Charles' old shoes. You'll see him. Andy Reid loves his running back screens. You'll be seeing him catching a lot of those, I suspect. 1 year, $1 million deal. Even if he doesn't bring anything, that's perfectly fine. There's a lot of upside there, though, to be honest. He could potentially fit what Andy Reid likes from his running backs perfectly. And they signed Mike Person to play guard. Great name, Person. I expect he'll be a backup. They re-signed Laurent Duvernay-Smith to play guard. A big contract considering it's 5 years, 40-something mil. It's an overpay. I think line continuity is a big deal in the NFL. Maybe an overpay. He did play quite well last year, as the line generally did, as on the whole as a unit. We'll see how he performs. If he can improve, and he's still a young player, if he can improve, then this could end up looking a good value contract. It feels like an overpay at this point, but this is one I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt. Certainly makes sense to keep that line intact at this point in time. Not a whole lot of movement out either. Nick Foles is no longer the backup. He's gone back to Philly. I mean, he was one of the better quarterbacks to have as a backup, especially I think with Andy Reid's system. But they'll bring in someone else. Of course, Jamal Charles, one of my favourite running backs in the league. He's currently still a free agent. You never know. He may return to Kansas City. I'm sure he'd be welcome back in terms of the fans. Great player. Who knows how he'll look coming back off the knee injury, what kind of contract he'll get. Those sorts of deals I think are the hardest ones for front offices to do, because it is very much speculative in a lot of ways. Dontari Poe, we'll see where he ends up. I feel like they've replaced him well, so great job there from the front office, even if it is only a short-term deal. That's really about it of note from the Chiefs. So pretty standard fare thus far. The team doesn't feel like it's gone forward, doesn't feel like it's gone back. I expect them once again to be competing for a playoff spot. They probably are my favourite in that division. I just think they're the most well-rounded team. It's a shame they don't have perhaps a bit more dynamism at quarterback. How much of that's on Smith, how much of that's on Andy Reid, I'm not sure, because they kind of are a dinky-dunk match made in heaven. So who knows? But this is a good team. They'll be good again, barring crippling injuries, anything horrible like that. The needs are suggested: linebacker, defensive end, wide receiver. They still feel like the main needs going into the draft. But, this is a team that can pretty much take the best player available. Pretty solid up and down. One of the best rosters in football, even if people don't necessarily talk about it enough. This should be a good team again next year. They'll be hoping to push on, advance in the playoffs. If they become a bit more dynamic offensively, this could be a Super Bowl contender. So What do you guys think? Do you think I'm a little bit too loved up on the Chiefs? You a doubter? Do you think this team might struggle next year? Alex Smith, as I say, not his biggest fan. He's fine. How big a loss do you think Jamal Charles will be? Do you think teams will catch up to some of what they were doing with Tyreek Hill? Or do you think he'll improve? What do you think of this team defensively? I'm a big fan of them as a group. Just give us a shout, Twitter, the Facebook group, the comments below. I'll do my best to get back to everybody that I possibly can. If you've got suggestions for shows, give us a shout. Check out the Patreon, Facebook, the Twitter, all that good stuff. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff's greatly appreciated if anyone does. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for your time, and go Bucks.